Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. That is right, baby. It is here. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and this show is presented by the Grid Network. I mean, it has been a crazy up and down week since we since we got started last week, back to normal, back to weekly episodes. Because the trade deadline happened the day after our show last week. And it was just a interesting day, to say the least. I mean, the Red Sox have been all over the board. They made two acquisitions, one on Wednesday, the other the day of, right up until the last minute, even though allegedly there were deals that have been made. The deal was made for Dustin May at 5 p.m. They just held on to it for another hour before they announced it. Why, I don't know. But the trade deadline was something that I want. First of all, this is what we got. We got right-handed pitcher Dustin May from the Dodgers and left-handed pitcher Steven Matz. Now, I want to hear from you. First and foremost, what were your thoughts on the Red Sox and the trade deadline? Were you content? Were you happy with it? Were you as angry as I was? I didn't have to drink to be as pissed off as I was Thursday at 6 p.m. or actually at 6:15 after everything was done. It was over, because the fact that I got my hopes up. Again, I got my hopes up. Now we're going to go into this a little bit more. Obviously, we're going to talk more about the team and how they've been playing lately. But I was so furious at 6:15 on last Thursday, because the fact that these were the two names that you went out and got, it was almost like a slap in the face. Again, the fact that they didn't make any big acquisitions, that it was that they tried, and it was they were connected. They, were close in on a deal, to certain guys that you're like, oh, hey, we're there. No, we're not. Because of course it fell through. And we were stuck with Dustin May and Steven Matz. And I think May's last name doesn't have an E. Typo, my bad. I know. But so let me just break this down a little bit for you. Okay. So Steven Matz, we got him from the Cardinals, and for one of our minor league prospects who, honestly, he had no potential to come up into the major leagues. Blaze Jordan, because Blaze Jordan he was playing the positions that are kind of filled right now, and there was no real shot for him. And it's not like I am upset that, hey, we got some extra arms. Fine. No big deal. Not really something that we needed. Of course we needed extra arms with the way we've been using our bullpen, especially early on in the season. But it was the fact that, again, they didn't make any big moves. I mean, look at what happened. Actually, before I get back to last year, like I said, Steven Matz, we acquired him from the Cardinals. He has a 3.44 ERA, 32 games in 55 innings. Now, he has pitched for us over 2 games. Hasn't given up a single run, which is great. Love to see it. But that's Steven Matz. Then for May is a lot more interesting, because we gave up 2 prospects, one of which was James Tibbs III. Now, if you remember James Tibbs III, you might not realize, you might remember the name, but you're like, how do I know that? How do I know that? Oh, that's right. He was a part of the Rafael Devers trade in early June. Okay, so we acquired Dustin May for James Tibbs. And May when you're going through his history. In 2021, he had to get Tommy John surgery after 5 games. In 2022, he pitched 6 total games in August and September, but had to hang it up for the season with lower back tightness. In 23, he pitched 9 games, but had a UCL sprain, had surgery on his right flexor tendon, even missed the beginning of that season due to some forearm issues, and then it just got exacerbated as the season went on. In 24, he never pitched and actually had to deal with an esophageal tear, your esophagus. So that's bizarre. And then this season, he's played in 19 games, had a 4.85 ERA in 104 innings. So clearly the most he's thrown ever. And then he was the starting pitcher for them. He was, bottom of the rotation starting pitcher until July 30th. So literally the day before the trade deadline, they're like, nah, you're out. You're going to be in our, relief pitcher. And then when he played against us at Fenway, went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned, and the Red Sox got the win 4-3. So then when you look at that trade, right, you're like, okay, Dustin May for a prospect and another prospect, James Tibbs III. I saw this from a lot of people being like, why do we give up James Tibbs? We just got him from the Rafael Devers deal. What is going on? And then people are like, happy about it. But to me, and listen, I hated that Devers deal. We got nobody of consequence. And not for nothing, had we waited up until now, things could have changed. We could have gotten better prospects. We could have gotten better arms, better, a first baseman for Rafael Devers, but we didn't. We sat on it. So now with James Tibbs, the guy hasn't been in our system for more than 2 months. Not even. And we gave him up already? That's like what we did at the beginning of the season when we traded that first guy on the list, Quinn Priester, who we acquired from the Pirates at the trade deadline last year. So I can't understand. Does Craig Breslow truly not care? Does he is he truly a robot and doesn't have the emotions where when you acquire a guy, you kind of need to hold on to him for, I don't want to say, 3 years, but at least let him develop. The guy, James Tibbs, was in single A. And as I said on the show last week, Quinn Priester is having a hell of a start playing for Milwaukee with an under 3.5 ERA. I don't know. Wouldn't that be a nice piece to have right now for the Red Sox? So that to me bothers me because he should be a guy that, listen, yes, we just traded for James Tibbs. You're telling me we couldn't find anyone else? And we shouldn't have even traded a top 100 prospect for Dustin May, first and foremost. Dustin May is not worth a top 100 prospect from our farm system, which our farm system's top 10. If you saw last week, some people were saying oh no, our farm system sucks now. We got, our best players got called up to the big leagues and this, that, and the other. No, our farm system doesn't suck. Okay. Had we gotten Joe Ryan, who I'll talk about in just a minute, it would have taken a much drastic fall than it has, but we still have a top 10 farm system. Don't let anyone tell you different. But to give up James Tibbs, they either got him, and in the span of a month and a half tops, they either realized, ooh, man, this kid, not that good. He's really bad. Or they knew he wasn't that good, and the Giants were using him and Jose Bayo, Kyle Harrison, like to throw in there, just to say we're going to get more numbers for one player. So there you go. Like more, we got 4-1. It's all going to work itself out. But they knew he sucked because the span of a month could be a hitting slump. I mean, look at how long Trevor Story was in his slump at the start of the year. A lot of us, myself included, were calling for him to get DFA'd or traded. And I would have taken that deal for Trevor Story. Like, that would have been a good deal for Trevor Story when he was in his slump. So I just look at it going, it's almost like they knew. They knew he wasn't that good. And then when he came here, he could have been in a slump, or he just could have had the mindset that he didn't care. And so the Red Sox finally just were like, nah, you've been here. We're not going to hold on to you, even though he was in single A, a league that he's got plenty of time to develop. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. And so the reason why, if you saw my Twitter rants, that I was saying the Red Sox were the biggest losers is because they were in for guys, not just Joe Ryan, but they were in for guys like Merrill Kelly, Josh Naylor, Yandy Diaz, first baseman, right-handed power hitters that we need. But they couldn't pull the trigger. And when discussing Joe Ryan, it's funny because Ken Rosenthal had a very interesting point when he went on the Foul Territory podcast. And this clip is going to be broken up into two segments. You'll figure out why in a minute. But I want to play this first clip because I think yes, Ken Rosenthal did take a step back from what he said, but there's obviously more to it. Take a listen.
Did nothing. This is a massive disappointment for the Red Sox and their fan base.
Epic fail. Comes off an epic fail last year's deadline with Craig Breslow, and this was an epic fail as well. Now, again, they met the same problem that the Cubs ran into. Joe Ryan is another starting pitcher who wasn't traded, but my understanding is any talks that they had with the Twins were feeble at best. They didn't come at them hard.
Feeble at best? Which, not for nothing, I bought with and ran with like I had to. One, does it help, my feelings towards the way the Red Sox have run the team? Of course it does. Because you have a superstar like Joe Ryan, 29 years old, who still has 2 more years left on his deal, and you're not going all out to get him, especially because he still has term. But as I mentioned before the start of that clip, Ken Rosenthal did walk his words back a little bit because he did say that, all right, I might have been too harsh when I said that the Red Sox pursuit of Joe Ryan was, quote, feeble at best, and that they didn't come at the Twins hard. Now, of course, that's part of what Ken Rosenthal said. He does go on to say that, quote, the Red Sox did not push for Ryan until the final hour. And though it was later reported they made various offers with multiple top 100 prospects, none of their proposals included a major league outfielder. And the bottom line is the Red Sox did not sufficiently entice the Twins. When you're going after a guy like Joe Ryan, you need to go out of your way to do that. And it's this idea that the Red Sox are, again, a big market organization. I wouldn't be surprised, most of you grew up with the Red Sox spending money, working towards getting the best players, the best talent. Hell, Dave Dombrowski did not care about the farm system and went out and got guys and was still able to get the Nathan Eovaldi's, the Mitch Mullins, guys who helped us win the 2018 World Series. But part of the reason why I ran with that feeble and was partially excited that that's how the Red Sox treated the Twins with, the feeble attempt, is because Ken Rosenthal, in his opening line, right after he says that there was a feeble attempt, this is what Rosenthal had to say, because this is what I can't stand.
The Red Sox are one of many teams that uses modeling and tries to figure out what the best values are, and it's all about efficiency and getting the best deal and this and that and the other thing. At some point, you've got to fire. It's the same thing we're saying with the Cubs. And they did not even address first base, which I know they've gotten decent work out of Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro, but my goodness, that was a position where they had to act. They tried for Suarez, Eugenio Suarez, and they tried with the idea of playing him at first base, didn't get him. Didn't get a starter other than Dustin May, who has not been a very successful starter for the Dodgers. And in their bullpen with Steven Matz, he's a swing guy. He can be effective, but my goodness, they needed more. This is a team that is on the rise. And again, they may say, we're going to be better next year. Our young guys will be that much better. Yeah, that's what the Orioles were saying a year ago. There is no guarantee in this sport or any other. So the Red Sox, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And there's going to be some people in Boston, a lot of people in Boston, questioning what the heck they did.
Right? As we should. We should be questioning what they did, because part of getting rid of Devers was to, hey, open up, we got more money to spend now. And then Craig Breslow, after the trade deadline, goes on to say, no, we can't. That's not how it works. We're going to wait until the offseason to do that, which is wild in and of itself. But the Red Sox just don't pull the trigger anymore. They can't. They're afraid. And this is the issue, because when you have guys who were traded, there was a Twitter account, Zach Scott, former, interim GM, former baseball executive, who was just talking in generalities. He wasn't talking about the Red Sox. And I understand his tweet, and I think it makes total sense. But him talking about just that you want to grade your team based on the deals that they could have had and not the deals that never happened, or the guys that got traded versus the guys that didn't get traded. So in other words, grade the Red Sox on the fact that Merrill Kelly was available, Josh Naylor was available, Ryan O'Hearn, yes, it's in the division, but even still was available and traded, and then compare the prospects for there, and don't use Joe Ryan as an example. And that's just from a Red Sox perspective. And that's what bothers me, is because when you look at, if you want to even leave Joe Ryan off the list and go off of what Zach said, you go on and say, okay, Merrill Kelly went to the Rangers. The Red Sox were right there to get him, and he was a rental. He was a rental piece. The Rangers, yes, did give up three prospects in order to get him, but their rotation is now better. Josh Naylor went to the Mariners. The Mariners, who made several big moves, including solidifying their lineup, never gave up a top 100 prospect from their system. And you're telling me you, with all your top 100 prospects, you couldn't get Josh Naylor? Really? What does that mean? That's where it's mind-blowing. And then to read and hear that the Red Sox waited until the final freaking minute to make an attempt to get Joe Ryan versus, I don't know, calling them at 11 a.m. that morning to say, hey, let's work this through. You needed to be on the ball, especially look at what just happened to Minnesota during the trade deadline. They sold off Carlos Correa. They sold off Griffin Jacks. They sold off Juron Duran or whoever, one of their other relief guys. They sold off half their team You don't think that had you massaged the Twins a little bit? Have you just given them the right amount of lube, or that you couldn't have enticed them with all that you have and not have waited until the 5 o'clock hour, or the 11 o'clock hour, 5 o'clock because it was 6, but the 11, you know what I mean? You could have waited, or you couldn't have done this early enough to massage the Twins to say, hey, listen, we like our guys, but look at all our top 100 prospects. You can get the password. You can get Peyton Tolley, one of the best young pitchers in our system, who is already in AAA. And the password has hit a home run every single game since the trade deadline, except I think for last night, which is the first time in 5 games. So we have guys, but they just weren't having it. And I can understand why, because they were focused more on selling off other pieces because they were probably working with those teams earlier. And that's where, looking at it, it boggles my mind, because Craig Breslow, in his 2 years here, has done the exact same thing as Kyle Bloom. I mean, I went through the different trade deadline acquisitions from 21 to 24. Now, obviously, we got the 25. It's almost identical what these two have done. And the funny part is, even Bob Nightingale went on to say that teams do not like dealing with the Red Sox. Take a listen.
Teams hate dealing with the Red Sox. They said it's just very tough to deal with Breslow. Diamondbacks had some momentum going with Merrill Kelly, and that fell apart at the end. I don't think they were ever really in on Joe Ryan. There was some report that was done. I'm not sure they even had conversations. But when you talk to GMs around the game, said it's very tough to deal with the Red Sox and Craig Breslow in particular. And if they're really going for it, they did a poor job, because the Yankees got a whole lot better. Blue Jays got better. So I think they're going to be on the outside looking in. I think the fact they didn't do anything, they may be sitting home and the Texas Rangers take their place as that wild card team.
And so that's, yes, first and foremost, the fact that teams hate dealing with us, unbelievable, wild. That's what no one wants to hear when you have your general manager who's supposed to be talking with these guys, who's supposed to be buddy. Hey, let's, go golfing with the Twins GM during the offseason, build the relationships, and all these things that and again, it's all in jest. I don't truly believe that Craig Breslow is a legitimate robot, with human skin. But it's these type of mannerisms where if they hate dealing with you, it's almost like you don't know how to deal with people. And that's part of the job. There's all this talk about internal strife that's going on in the Red Sox organization, and that Breslow has a potential mutiny on his hands due to the fact that you have all these guys who have been there for a long time not enjoying working for this man. And then the one guy who got fired because he called him an effing stiff. I mean, if Bob Nightingale's report is true, I think the guy who got fired needs to be rehired, because he's not wrong. If that's how this goes, you can't have that. You can't be successful as a general manager, director of baseball ops, whatever the hell title that he has. He's a general manager. Let's just call it for what it is. And so it's why, and the sad part is, as I said, it's not just Breslow. It's been our general manager for the past 5 years. And so, looking at the way everything has gone on in this trade deadline, I was ready for round 5 of Alex Cora packing it in, calling out the organization, saying that you've given me nobody, you've given me nothing. And the Red Sox are going to do what they did, fall off a cliff, end up in third, fourth, and at worst, dead last in the AL East again, no playoffs. And it just would have been another lost season and another potential that had you made a move, we could be sitting in a very different place right now. And I made that bold proclamation. I don't want it to come true. I hope you understand that. I don't want that to happen. I want the Red Sox to do well, to go on, to succeed. The only issue is that I have with them is the fact that they're all doing this based off analytics on computers, on the fact that you have guys like Jonah Hill and Moneyball who are so hell-bent and so focused on the numbers, and the numbers will tell you if this is a good deal or not. The numbers will say, how many wins does it take to get to the postseason, let alone the division. I mean, you want to see for yourself? Here's that clip from Moneyball.
So using this equation in the upper left right here, I'm projecting that we need to win at least 99 games in order to make it to the postseason. We need to score at least 814 runs in order to win those games and allow no more than 645 runs.
Isn't that just makes the game so much more complicated? You're taking what is beautiful about sports, the craziness, the unpredictability about sports, and boiling it down into a number. I mean, did you hear that? They needed 99 wins to get to the postseason. They needed to score 814 runs in order to acquire those 99 wins while allowing only 645. Tell me that's not the reason why you got into it. If you watch sports because of what Jonah Hill just said, let me know in the comments below. If you hate everything that Jonah Hill just said, let me know in the comments below, because that just makes the game so much more confusing. And it's all numbers. It's all predictors rather than what the outcome was. How many wins did it take to get to the playoffs? Or will it take to get to the playoffs? You know, just because the number is 99 for them doesn't mean that is actually the case. It could have been 90 in their division. Or it could be, for our case, it could be 87 to win the wild card. You know, like all these metrics, all these numbers just make the game so much more confusing. And it's to sit there and have a computer screen saying, okay, we got the password, Peyton Tolley, we got, 3 other of our top prospects, and then have Joe Ryan on the opposite side, hit the enter key and see what the computer model says. You have a 95% chance rate of acquiring Joe Ryan. Like, great. What if the GM is on the other 5%? Fun fact, which he was. Like, it's ridiculous to me. And so, like, this whole trade deadline thing just brought up more misery where I'm sitting there thinking, we're done for. This is it. And the Red Sox, as a team, as players, I love when they prove me wrong. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, let me get to some comments. Carving It Up with Bryson Carver, another great show on the Grid Network. If you haven't subscribed, check it out. He went live at 6 o'clock today, had a great show. Let's see. Red Sox operating like they're working with Kansas City Royals money is infuriating to me. Follows it up with, Dave Dombrowski deserves an apology from all of us Red Sox Nation. He was never the problem. Bryson, I couldn't agree with you more. I could not agree with you more. It's this whole idea of us being such a big market. We're Boston, damn it. And we are operating like the Royals, like the Rays, like the Athletics is asinine to me. We have the money. I've gone through it a number of times. Forbes listed the Fenway Sports Group as the third richest sports ownership group in the world, in the trillions of dollars. Not one, trillions with a T. And so the fact that they're, and especially recently with Liverpool going after players and giving up hundreds of millions of pounds of euros just to acquire one player, two players, going after another guy in the Premier League. And I think it was what Tottenham said no, but they were willing to pay Tottenham just to talk to the guy over 100 million pounds. Yet, God forbid we get Joe Ryan. God forbid we pony up at least 700 million for Juan Soto. Not saying that I want Juan Soto now, but just at that time, stupid, like they and then they want to claim all this nonsense about we're spending the same amount of money as we did in 04. It's like, John, we're not in 04 anymore. You know, your past doesn't mean that inflation hasn't grown, where there's a reason why these guys are making more money. You know? And then we got frequent commenter, not Doug, agree with Bryson, and I wish Dombrowski was here. And that's it. Dombrowski, who is crushing it in Philadelphia right now, and Philadelphia, the top of the NL East, who went out and got better through the trade deadline, somehow is still able to make trades. You know, like, even though Trader Dave is rolling around, you're telling me that Dave Dombrowski couldn't have drafted a Roman Anthony? He couldn't have drafted some of these other guys? Because, again, he gave up Yohan Moncada to get Chris Sale. He did not give up Andrew Benintendi. He did not give up Mookie Betts. Just because he did give up Moncada, who was the number one prospect. Tell me again, how is Yohan Moncada doing? Comment below. That's right. He's not. He never panned out as the type of number one prospect he could have been. Meanwhile, we got a World Series out of Chris Sale. We got a 300 strikeout, 300 or 200 strikeout season out of Chris Sale, regardless. Like, that's what I'm talking about. You can still make trades, make baseball moves while giving up top prospects if you have done your due diligence, done your research, and said, that's not a guy. He's not going to succeed at the next level. You're going to lose some of those deals. That's how it works. You win some, you lose some. As long as you can win more than you lose, great. But the fact that our past two GMs have still yet to make any consequential moves at the deadline when the team deserves to have those moves be made, right? I mean, what are we talking about here? So I've said this before, and I think we should all still say it. I'm sorry to Dave Dombrowski if we ever doubted you. I will never apologize for Kyle Bloom, no matter how many people want to say to me, well, Bloom drafted Anthony and Meyer, and he got Wilyer Abreu and Jared Duran and all these guys. Yeah, great. We could go back all the way. I mean, look at the team that won in 04. That wasn't Theo's team. That was a previous general manager's team. So why do I care? Right? That's my thought process behind that. Otherwise, when you're actually making consequential moves, like something at the trade deadline, like getting a Garrett Crochet, which I did at the time, give Breslow credit. He pulled the trigger. But then now, when it came time, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. All right, I think that's my rant for the day. that's the rant of the Red Sox for the day, because the Red Sox, as the team, proved me wrong, and I'm so happy about it. They are winners of 7 straight and have not only got themselves atop the AL wild card. If you see that, the Red Sox 64-51. They got at least a 2.5 game lead over the Mariners, who, again, the Mariners did get better at the trade deadline. While you didn't make any consequential moves, they're still 2.5 games back of you. The Yankees, 3.5 games back of you, and you get the Rangers, the Guardians. So you're sitting pretty right now atop the AL wildcard. So with that being said, I think it's time we start looking towards the division. Because as it stands right now, and right now did not take into account the afternoon game. So this is as of last night's final scores. But the Blue Jays are 67-48. We're, again, 64-51, 3 games behind the Blue Jays. The Yankees, 60-54 on a 5-game losing streak. They did win today, but as of last night, 5-game losing streak, 6 games back of the Blue Jays. The Rays, 56-59, who, ironically enough, the Rays did buy, technically, at the trade deadline. So they did get better, even though they're sitting at 4th place, meaning you did nothing. They're 56-59, 11 games back, and are on a 1-game win streak. And the Orioles, I think they're done. 51-63, 15.5 back, losers of 3 straight, 5-5 in their last 10. It's the Orioles are done. That's why I think you still could have had Ryan O'Hearn, even though he's in the division. Would have solidified first base, and we could have moved on. But we still have the rest of August, all of September, and I'm pretty sure we play into the first week of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments down below. But, okay, nope, I stand corrected. We only play up until September 28th. All right, September 28th, our final game, going against Detroit. But we have a chance right now to really put pressure on the Blue Jays and possibly take home the AL East crown for the first time since 2018? Yeah, because we were in the wild card in 2021. So yeah, it's been a long time since we won the AL East. And when you look at our upcoming schedule, we get the Royals tonight, which, as it currently stands, the Sox do have a 2-0 lead at the bottom of the second. That's about to start, so that's always good news. But then we're at San Diego coming up, and then we're in Houston again. We just swept them at home, so that's going to be interesting. Then we're home against Miami, a 2-game set against the O's. We're in New York for a 4-game set, in Baltimore for a 4-game set, and we're back home playing the Pirates. It's not a terrible month of August. I think it's a very doable month of August, especially if we can sweep the Royals tonight and have an 8-game winning streak to already set up the month of August. That's what I'm enjoying about this right now, is we have an opportunity to actually do something. And right now, of course, the Blue Jays did win today because guess who they were playing? The friggin' Rockies. Like a team that just sucks. They are trash. If you thought the White Sox last year were trash, and they were heaping pile of garbage. I mean, the Rockies might be the landfill before you even fill that in. They're just piling bag on bag on bag on bag. Like, they are awful. So, of course, the Blue Jays swept them in their 3-game set with them. But I'm interested to see what's going to happen with this, because I am still not thrilled with our trade deadline. And I know a bunch of people are going to come out and say, yeah, but we didn't give up our top prospects. We didn't give up Duran, or we didn't give up Abreu, and it was too much money and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get it. It would have cost us a fortune just to get Joe Ryan. But if we do somehow pull this out of our ass and take the AL East, you're telling me that a team with Garrett Crochet as your number 1 and Joe Ryan is your number 2 isn't going to scare teams out there? I mean, for example, for those, if you were watching, paying attention on Twitter, Fox Sports on MLB, their Twitter account posted the image of Joe Ryan in a Red Sox uniform, saying that it happened and that the trade went through, even though it hadn't. And to see all the teams in the division, all the Yankee fans, all the all the teams in the American League, the fans who do the podcast, lose their minds in real time and freak out and think it's the worst thing that's ever going to happen because now the Red Sox are elite. Yeah, I almost wish I had that feeling I wish I had the feeling that we did get him, because everyone would have been petrified of our starting rotation with Joe Ryan in it. And you can't convince me otherwise. I know it would have cost a lot of money. Money being prospects. But hey, I'm just excited to see what happens, what plays out, because we're 3 games back out of the division title. The division title. We have an opportunity to do something special here. This team, who after the first month and a half looked like the bottom of the barrel, I think we have that opportunity. So the other thing that just broke earlier today was the fact that Roman Anthony is staying a Boston Red Sox for 8 years, $130 million that can grow to $230 million. That's awesome. I love it, love it, love it. Like I said, like I tweeted out, I swear to God, when this team, pisses me off, they always find a way to pull me back in. This is great news. Yes. Did it need to happen now? No. But is it something that not only helps this kid and his family out now and helps the Red Sox? It's a win-win. Absolutely. But there are some interesting things to think about, though. When thinking about this deal, of course the Red Sox wanted to approach him now, 7 weeks as a major league ball player, and they wanted to get him signed up for a long term on a cheap deal. Of course, he's 21 years old. He's batting nearly 300. That doesn't happen for a guy that young, making his way up the rankings as it is. The kid is an electric ball player. He's so calm and collected. He's like, any moment to him is normal. I wouldn't be surprised if we make the World Series, not just this year, but like if, down the road, and he's, playing for us. And I wouldn't be surprised if he came up in a clutch moment. To him, it's probably like, it's another day at the office. And that's a dangerous feeling if you're the pitcher staring down Roman Anthony. If it's another day at the office for him in a clutch moment, as that pitcher, you better be scared. I mean, he's got phenomenal plate discipline just from what I've seen already. And he's already in the hunt for the AL Rookie of the Year. I think he's number 2. So, of course, it makes sense for the Red Sox to get this deal done now. I mean, when you think about it, too, they signed up Ceddanne Rafaela for a long time. They signed up Christian Campbell for a long time, and they got Garrett Crochet. It's good news. It's good news. And yet, you think about it, and okay, he's 21 years old. Why now? Why did he sign this deal? Because you're seeing what's going on in Major League Baseball with these deals just being through the roof. Shohei Ohtani, $700 million. Juan Soto, $765 million. Vlad Guerrero, he got $570 million. And yes, I think Shohei Ohtani is 30, 31, or 32. But Juan Soto's 26. Vlad Guerrero is also in his late 20s. Why wait? Why not wait and bet on yourself? And you'd be right up there with the upper echelon if he keeps playing the same way, if not getting better. But there's one other thing to think about, too. If you're Roman Anthony and you're sitting down with your agent, you're having these talks with the Red Sox, the Red Sox can also look at you if your agent's bringing up Guerrero, Soto, and saying, hey, look, they signed 1-year deals that increased over time. And then when it was about to be the real free agency period for them, they got everything and then some. That's what Roman Anthony's agent's probably saying to the Red Sox, if he's a good agent. But the Red Sox can counter that and say, that's very true. But we also had a player who we offered a very fair deal at this early stage of his career. The problem with him is he got hurt. And he always gets hurt. He tries, but he hasn't come back. And now, with the injury that he's currently dealing with, he might never be the same ball player again, let alone be able to play at all. Can you tell me who I'm talking about? That's right. It's Tristan Casas. Tristan Casas was approached last season saying, hey, probably something right around Campbell, somewhere between Campbell and Rafaela, just not a good chunk of change, but not a lot. And what did Casas do? Nope, I'm going to bet on myself. I mean, the guy's always been a loner. There's no two ways about that. But he's going to bet on himself. And unfortunately for him, it didn't work out. And now he's coming back with a torn knee. I think it was the patella tendon. And he might never be the same ball player ever again. Yes, he plays first. But that doesn't mean he still has to run the bases. And Roman Anthony can sit there as a 21-year-old and say, damn, you're giving me $130 million, which can increase to $230 million if I hit certain incentives. All right, where's that pen? I'm going to sign. And I don't blame him. because, yeah, it's a great thing to risk it and to say, hey, I'm going to bet on myself thinking that I'm not going to get injured. I'm going to keep raking at the plate. And then I can earn that Juan Soto money. I mean, to him, he'll be a free agent at 29. It just takes out all the arbitration and all of that nonsense. But there's still that, you know? And to me, yeah, it's 130 million. Sign me the hell up. Like, I don't care. You're telling me I can make 500 million or 130 million? I can make 500 million in what, 3 or 4 years, or I can make 130 million right now. With the incentives being I can make 230. Almost half. But I can do it right now. Sign me up. Let's go. Like, what do I need $500 million for? I think I could do a lot with 230, let alone 130. Right? Of course. So, I don't know. I'm very happy. I'm excited for Roman Anthony. I think that's great. You know, it's awesome. And it helps Red Sox. Roman Empire is here to stay. The Red Sox, they got a good deal. My only fear is if they use his deal as an excuse for Devers' money, I will fight that tooth and nail. Otherwise, love the move. Frequent comment to not dog. Be careful, kid. They'll break your heart. Yeah. Fever pitch. Tell me about it. There's a reason why I'm so passionate when it comes to the Red Sox. It's because I care. I just care. I care too much. Speaking of caring too much, we got the Patriots. We got the New England Patriots who last week I talked extensively about how this season, and I still believe this wholeheartedly. This season is all predicated on how successful the offense is and at adapting Josh McDaniels' system. That's really where this is going to lie. You know, I think our defense has absolutely improved. I think we're good enough. You know, I think we're good enough to at least be a top 15 defense in every category. As long as we stay healthy. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking to you, Christian Gonzalez. But now here are the $1 million questions, right? Do they have one of the weakest skill position groups in the league? Yes. Do they have one of the weakest O-lines in the league? Yes. Do we know how good Drake May is going to be? No. But I believe there is hope. I believe that there is hope that this team is going to be better than last season's. And trust me, have we improved in certain areas? Absolutely. I truly believe we have improved in certain areas and in some of those key positions I just talked about. But again, I also believe that we have a better head coach and a better coaching staff than we did last season. And because of that, I don't believe I think this was for fun and, all things being considered, but this right here, win, 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 loss, win, 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 loss, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win, win, is going to happen. No. If it does, man, I need to go. I need to go to the lottery and buy me a scratch ticket if that exact schedule, is true. Otherwise, this team is not a 4-win team. It's not. I don't think Mike Vrabel is gonna. I think Mike Vrabel is a better coach than a 4-win organization. And that is the end of Bill Belichick's tenure and Gerard Mayo's 1-year run. Because let's not forget, Bill Belichick was checked out. The man was effing clueless the last 2 years of his tenure. The second and third season of Mac Jones, he was out to lunch. So I truly believe that this team is a better team than the 4-13 team that we were the last 2 years. And it's a better team than it was even 3 years ago, in my opinion. Though, when watching this preseason and reading the reports, going down to practice, it's been one of inconsistency so far. The O-line has been extremely inconsistent, with the bad being really bad. Wide receivers sometimes look like they're the worst group in the NFL. May has had his own issues, from botched snaps to accuracy issues. But today's joint practice, I think, proved a lot. And yes, I am solely focusing on the offense, but there's a few defensive nuggets. One of them being Vrabel bloodied, offense was humming, and defense shutting down the NFC runner-ups. It's what they did. You know, I understand it's one day, joint practices. We have our game on Friday. But May was extremely accurate. You know, yes, there was a tip pass by Bobby Wagner to cap off the day, but he was staying in the pocket. He was able to move in the pocket with efficiency, make decisions, get the ball out. Some of the receivers did drop the ball. And then the reports indicate that the O-line was able to hold up. They weren't as big of an issue going against the first team defense of the Commanders. You know? And of course, that's the two major sticking points, two major groups with this team. If you can block for Drake May and give him enough time, I don't expect this offensive line to be, you know, the 90s Cowboys or, you know, the 07 Patriots up until, of course, the Super Bowl. But I believe this offensive line can do well enough. I think they absolutely have a ceiling. There's no two ways about that. This offensive line absolutely has a ceiling, but that doesn't mean their ceiling is 29th. You know, I believe that their ceiling is at least top 15. You know, but there are players, I think, that are being left out of the fold. And it's interesting because there are a lot of reports, of course, on Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte having a hell of a training camp. Drake May with his passes, getting his connections with guys. Pop Douglas, he had a hell of a day today. But you also have guys like Travion Henderson, who everybody was excited for, myself included. The second round of the NFL draft, we got him. We got the stud running back out of Ohio State. Phenomenal. But he's cutting into time that Ramondre Stevenson should have with the first team offense. And I think that's great. I'm pumped because that means the coaching staff is trusting Travion Henderson to be in the backfield, to, take the ball up the middle, work with Drake May, learn May's tendencies on, just even how he hands the ball off. But what does that say about Ramondre Stevenson? I mean, Ramondre Stevenson led the league in fumbles last year, excluding quarterbacks. He led the league in fumbles with 7. And to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if Travion Henderson passes Ramondre Stevenson for the number one back prior to the season opener or shortly after. Because that kid is good. And part of the reason why Vrabel got bloodied today was because of Travion Henderson. Not because Travion Henderson punched Mike Vrabel, but Henderson, being the tough SOB pass blocker that he is, blocked a guy to the ground and held him to the ground a little bit longer than he maybe should have. I'm not saying that. Other people have said that. I'm not saying he blocked him for the perfect amount of time, but other people are saying that he blocked him for maybe a little bit too long. Scrum breaks out. Vrabel gets in the fold and starts trying to pull people apart and comes up bloodied. And of course, Mike Vrabel's response is, you should have seen the other guy. Like, I mean, there are some people in Boston, there are some people in media who want to say, oh, Mike Vrabel is such a hotto. True. But that's what makes him entertaining. Like, how can you not love that? It's a cliche line, but it's so funny. So there is that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the wide receiver group, yeah, it looks, good at times. You definitely have your locks, or at least I think the locks. You got, Stephon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, Kyle Williams, our second-round draft pick, and Matt Collins, the kid we just signed from Buffalo. But even though this wide receiver group is deep, it's not as strong as I think we'd like to imagine it to be. Because that is 5 guys right there who, for the most part, are kind of solidified. And I said Kyle Williams, second round, he's a third rounder. But regardless, you're maybe looking at 1 at most 2 more spots at the wide receiver group. And of course, if you take 7, that means you're going to have to subtract from another position. But that means you have Kendrick Bourne, Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, and Efton Chisholm III for 1, maybe 2 spots. Now, everything I saw in spring camp, I loved Efton Chisholm. He was classic Edelman, Amendola, just not because he's white, help, but because he was just breaking in and out of his cuts. He had that hell of a wheel route, or not wheel route. He had a hell of a move, just cutting in and then breaking out, just the way he gets low. He drops his hips. It was everything that you wanted to see if you're a wide receiver coach. But of course, ever since we started to put pads on, he hasn't done what he's done in OTAs, right? So he's clearly on the bubble. Jalen Polk missed a chunk of training camp due to his injury. Don't know what that was, but he was out. And now he's come back and he's been fine. Really not much reporting on him. Javon Baker, though, he's an idiot. He's an effing moron with some of his antics after he makes plays, but he's making plays. And yes, it is training camp. It's practices. Let's see how you do this in a real game. But Baker, out of these 4, has kind of gotten the most hype, because even Kendrick Bourne, while he worked with Josh McDaniels his first season here in New England, playing with Mac Jones, he really hasn't been jumping off the charts. And I don't know if that's by design, the fact that, hey, you know what? They thought he had enough in him, so they're going to really give him a shot because he knows Josh McDaniels' system. Otherwise, though, from the way the reports have gone, if they are going to carry a sixth wide receiver, crazy enough, it seems like Baker's going to be the guy. Yes, the same Javon Baker who said that he can make people in wheelchairs stand up. So it's I'm really intrigued to kind of see what's going to happen in this training camp, and especially not just Friday, but over the next 3 preseason games. Because I would love, this is going to be a position group I definitely am keeping my eye on. And I'm going to definitely keep my eye on the running backs. Not so much for the cuts, but for the roster positioning. All right. Is who's going to be the number one guy? Who's going to be the workhorse for the Patriots? And for those of you who are into fantasy football, like myself, I don't know. All intents and purposes, I like Travion Henderson. And that's my God's honest truth. Otherwise, I might have given some family members in my family league a couple hints. So, listen, thank you so much for sticking around. This is the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnard. Don't forget, we do have our own Boston Sports Summit merch. Link will be in the description below. Otherwise, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for sticking around. And, hey, at the end of the day, go Sox, go Pats, go Bruins, go Celtics. It's that simple. Boston Sports Summit, where all we want to do is just climb that mountain all the way to the top. All right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sticking around with me, and have a great rest of your night, and have a great week. I'll see you guys next week. God.